Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is the first time of stopping by. I say welcome. Please consider subscribing to my channel. To my old subscribers, I say thank you very much for all your support. So for these videos, we'll be making this lovely gown for our princesses. If it's something you are interested in, please watch to the end, and I'll see you at the end of the video. So for this style, we'll be making use of our Ankara and net fabric for this style. And for the cutting part, I'll be folding my fabric into four. I'll be cutting my front and my back together. And when you look at the folding, you see that I have excess at the end of it. That will serve as my zipper allowance. So I went ahead to mark the rough edges, mark out the rough edges of the Ankara. And for my half length, I marked 11 inches plus 1 inch allowance for joining. Sorry that my shock is not showing today, but please look at the style, look at what I'm doing, you will get it as well. Then I'm going to start from the center front where I just pointed for my marking. I'm going to go ahead and take my shoulder to shoulder measurement, which is 13 divided by 2 plus half inch allowance for joining. And then I'm going to go down with for the same measurement for my armhole. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect the lines. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my neckline measurement, which I did 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. For later in the style, um I changed the neckline to something else, to a wider neckline. Please keep watching, you see. And then for the back neckline, I marked 1.5 inches, same height for the front one. I'm going to go ahead and connect the lines. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my measurements, my bust measurement divided by 4. For my bust measurement is 26 inches divided by 4 plus 1.5 or 2 inches allowance for the joining. Then also my waist measurement, which is 27 inches divided by 4 plus my allowance. That's what I just marked. Then for my shoulder slope is 1 inch. That's just I just marked, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it to my neckline. Then I made a curve for my armhole. I don't know if I showed where I made a curve for my armhole. And that's all for the cutting of the bodies. And then I'm going to cut the back neckline first, then separate it from the front one before cutting the front neckline. I hope you're enjoying this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. Subscribe to my channel. Join the growing family. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please share my videos to family and friends. And then for the net, I folded my neck to have a narrow width instead of cutting a long width of net. So I'm going to mark my measurements. My measurement is 30 inches minus 11 inches for the half length. So whatever I have remaining, I'm going to mark it there plus 1 inch allowance for joining. That's what I just marked. Then I'll mark the next step. I'm going to deduct 5 inches from the total, from the measurement I marked earlier. That's for the first net. I deducted 5 inches from it, and then I marked. Then since I have deducted 5 inches from the other one, I will also remove 5 inches again. That's making it a total of 10 inches from the length. I'm going to place it at 10 inches as well, and then mark my length. For the length of the net, I have for the width of the net, I have about 120 inches for each layer of it. So for my neckline, like I told you earlier, that I'm going to make it a wider neck. So I am going to mark from my back neckline 5 inches. Then I am going to go down by 4 inches. Then that's what I mark. Then for the front one, then for the back one, I also, the width is the same. Then for the back, for the length, I have about 3.5 inches there. Then I'm going to connect it, the lines, and then cut it out. So the next thing we are going to do is to go into the sewing tutorial. And for this one, I cut out my fabric into two. I'm going to be using one to turn the other one. If you have lining, you can use lining for this. So I'm going to turn my neckline and my armhole. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back as well. So this is it after joining the neckline, after stitching the neckline and the armhole. The next thing I'm going to do is to notch this. Remember to be careful not to cut through your thread. So I'm going to go ahead and notch the neckline and the armhole as well for the front and the back bodice. Then after I was done notching it, the next thing I'm going to do is to turn this inside out. Then I went ahead to iron it down to keep everything in place. And this is it after I was done ironing it down. So I'm trying to get the one suitable for I'm going to use for the front bodies. And then after I'm going to arrange the front and the back together, the shoulders together, pin it down, and then stitch the two shoulders down. And this is it after stitching it down. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is to arrange the back piece, the bodies together to take out my zipper allowance. So I'm going to arrange this very well. Then the remaining excess, I'm going to pin it down. This will serve as my zipper allowance. I'm not going to stitch it down yet because I want to, the opening is going to help in the stitching of other part of the style. Then I'm going to go ahead and stitch the two sides together with my measurements, just like I showed you. And this is it after stitching it down. So the next thing you're going to do is to get the measurement for the design at the shoulder part. So for this, you're going to measure from your center front all the way to the back. And for the back, I'm not going to include my zipper allowance for this. I'm going to leave some inches for my zipper allowance. And for this, I have about 18 inches. Okay, for the design, I'm going to cut this in a 180-degree flay. So I folded my fabric into a triangular form, and I'm going to mark 8 inches all round, just like you want to cut your flay. And then I measured it to make sure I have about 10 inches. Okay, I'm going to measure to make sure I have 10 inches for the where I'm going to attach to my shoulder. Then I measured 10 inches for the length plus 1 inch allowance for the joining and the stoning. Then from the end, I'm going to make a curve to meet the 11 inches that I marked. I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. Just look at the video, you will understand it well. So after I was done cutting, I went ahead to cut another fabric for this, for the turning, and then I pinned it down. I'm going to stitch all the way round, leaving a little bit of space to turn this inside out. So this is it after stitching, but before I stitch it down, I added a gum stay to this, an interfacing, is it called gum stay to the fabric to make it stronger and to make it firmer. So that's why I added it. So I'm going to go ahead and then notch this round. So when I was done notching it, I'm going to go ahead and cut out this excess there to reduce the bulge at that area. Then I'm going to turn it inside out. So this is it after turning it inside out. I'm going to iron this down and then turn the remaining opening in and then stitch it down. So this is it after I was done stitching it down and then ironing it. I'm going to go ahead and then fold my bodice together to get the center. I'm not going to notch this because this is the neckline and I've already stitched it. So I'm going to go ahead to use my chalk to mark the center of it at the front part. Then from there, I'm going to go ahead and place this at that center, place it and then use my pin to secure it. Then I'm going to go keep pinning this down at my neckline all the way to where it's going to stop, and I'll go to my sewing machine and then stitch it down. So this is it after stitching it down. The next thing, so the next thing I did is to cut out my fabric from my net design, and for this the length is 5 inches, the width is as long as your net is. That's what I cut out, and I'm going to go ahead to attach this to my two net to my net to my two net to my net sha. So for this I'm going to open my net up the length of this the width of this length, the net I'm going to open it up. Then for my Ankara fabric I'm going to fold this into two and then place it on top of the net and stitch it all the way from the beginning to the end. If it makes the work easier for you, you can place the net on top of the Ankara and before stitching it down. So this is it after I was done stitching it down. I'm going to go ahead and flip my Ankara to the other side to cover the rough edges, and then top stitch that area and then stitch the upper one to hold it in place on the net. That I'm going to have 2 stitches there. And this is it after stitching. I'm going to do this to all the 3 layers of the style. So when I was done stitching all this, the next thing I'm going to do is to run a loose stitch on the upper side of, okay, I'm going to place all together since it's a net, is so soft and easier for you to gather. So I'm going to place everything together on, I'm going to gather all of them together at the same time. So I'm going to place it meeting each other at the waistline. Then I'm going to run a loose stitch on it and then gather it. And this is it after I was done with the done gathering it. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure where I want my lining to be, because we're going to cut out our lining for this. So I'm going to measure this, then about 1 inch below the anchor where the net stop. I don't want it to be showing, so just 1 inch after the where the net is visible. That's where I stop, and I have about, I think, 19 inches or so. So I'm going to go ahead, or 18 inches, then plus 1 inch allowance for joining and then for serging, because I'm going to serge it. But if you want to fold your lining, what you do is to add allowance for the joining, for the folding. So I marked my 19 inches. I'm going to cut this out and I keep marking it. So I want you to have a fuller look. But if you have your bridal satin, you can use your bridal satin. Bridal satin will give you a fuller look for this style. So if you want it fuller, please make use of your bridal satin. But for this, I use my line. So for this lining, I have 3 layers of it. I'm going to go ahead and join the 3 layers together to have a long fabric of um, a long lining for this zukwanike. So the next thing I did is to attach the layers of net to the bodies, and for this I'm going to do front part, front facing front, and then stitch it down. So whenever I'm gathering my fabric, I don't usually gather my zipper allowance. So my gathering will start after my zipper allowance. Hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So this is it after I was done stitching it down to the bodies. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach my neck lining. Is to attach my lining to my bodies, and for this I'm going to use a little plate to do this. And this is it after I was done attaching it. Please now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to close this up. First of all, I'm going to hold my the waistline together with my pin, and then I'm going to join these layers by layer. For this, I measure 5.5 inches down from my waistline. Then from there, I'm going to stitch from there for each layers for my lining for the 3 layers of the net. I'm going to stitch it one after the other, and then go ahead to attach my zip. And that's it for this style. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you do. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to my channel. Please do not leave today without subscribing. Share my videos to family and friends. Invite them. And I'm sorry for all the noise from my baby today, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.